The morning sun rose, golden and warm, but for Mary, tied to the wooden post outside the hut, it felt like a cruel spotlight. Her body was no longer hers. She bleated helplessly, tugging at the rope around her neck. Her once soft hands were gone, replaced by hooves that scratched the dust. Her voice, the voice that could sing, the voice that could laugh, was stolen, turned into the cry of an animal. Inside the compound, Grace hummed cheerfully as she prepared breakfast. She stirred a pot of stew, the smell of spices filling the air. Her children sat around her, grinning. To the world, she was the perfect mother. To Mary, she was the hand of the devil. John, Mary's father, came out of his room, stretching. "Where is Mary?" he asked, looking around. Grace smiled sweetly, wiping her hands on her wrapper. "Oh, she went early to fetch water from the stream. You know that girl is always eager to walk." John nodded, tired. He sat down to eat. Grace served him with a loving smile, but her eyes flicked toward Mary outside, tied like a beast. When the meal was done, Grace covered the pot and walked outside. She bent low, whispering so only Mary could hear. "Did you think anyone would believe you? Even your father cannot see you now. To him, you are gone. To the world, you are nothing but a goat." Mary bleated in protest, shaking her head, tears rolling down her animal face. Grace straightened, tying her headscarf tighter. She untied the rope, pulled Mary forward, and tied another rope around her neck like a leash. "Let's go," she muttered. They walked through the village. Dust rose with each step. Children ran past, laughing, pointing at the goat. Mary wanted to scream, "I am not a goat, I am Mary. Believe me." But all that came out was a pitiful bleat. At the market square, Grace lifted her chin high and called out, "Goat for sale. Strong goat, fat goat. Who will buy?" Traders and buyers crowded around. They touched Mary's back, lifted her legs, checked her teeth. Mary shivered, humiliated. To them, she was meat. "How much?" one man asked. 20 cowries, Grace replied proudly. "Oh," another man scoffed. "Too much. I'll pay 10. Grace shook her head. "No. This goat is worth more. Strong, healthy. Look at her eyes. Pure." Mary's eyes widened, tears brimming. Did no one see? Did no one notice the human pain in her eyes? The bargaining went on until finally, a poor fisherman stepped forward. His clothes were torn, his hands rough from nets. Behind him stood a small boy, maybe 10 years old, with bright, curious eyes. "I have only 6 cowries," the man said. "But I need meat for my family." Grace hesitated. Then she smiled wickedly. "Fine. Take it. The goat is yours." She grabbed the coins and shoved Mary toward the man. The rope around her neck was passed into his calloused hands. Mary stumbled, her heart breaking. She turned her head, bleating in desperation as Grace walked away, her laughter trailing in the wind. The fisherman pulled Mary along the sandy path toward the river. The fisherman's house stood near the river, a small mud hut with a thatched roof and smoke stains above the doorway. The scent of fish hung heavy in the air. He tied Mary to a wooden pole outside, sharpening his knife against a flat stone. Sparks flew, and the sound scraped Mary's soul. Her heart pounded. Is this how my story ends? Slaughtered like an animal. Forgotten by all? She pulled at the rope, bleating wildly, but the man only chuckled. "Strong goat," he muttered. "We shall eat well tonight." Mary's knees buckled. Tears ran down her animal face. Her breath came fast and broken. But then, the boy appeared. He crouched beside her, his wide eyes filled with wonder. He studied her face closely, his small hand reaching to touch her cheek. "Papa," the boy whispered softly, almost to himself, "this goat, Her eyes are not like other goats. The man grunted, not looking up. Nonsense. A goat is a goat. Go and fetch more firewood. But the boy did not move. His gaze locked with Mary's, and in that instant, she felt something shift. He saw her. Truly saw her. Her lips trembled. She pressed every ounce of her spirit into a whisper. The words scratched against her throat, faint but real. Help me. The boy gasped, stumbling back. His eyes widened. You can talk, he whispered, his voice shaking. Mary nodded, tears streaming down her furred face. Please, she begged, her voice breaking, I am not a goat. I am a girl. My stepmother, she cursed me. The boy's heart raced. His chest heaved with fear, but also with compassion. He leaned closer, whispering so his father would not hear. What is your name? Mary, she breathed. My name is Mary. Please, don't let him kill me. The boy's lips parted. He had never seen such a thing in his life, but something inside him knew she was telling the truth. Her pain was too real. Her tears were too human. I will help you, he whispered fiercely. I promise. The fisherman's voice bellowed from the doorway. Boy. Sharpen faster. Tonight we feast. The boy glanced at his father, then back at Mary. He pressed his small hand to her fur, steadying her. His whisper was a vow. I will not let them harm you. Somehow, I will find a way. Mary's heart swelled with fragile hope. For the first time since her curse, someone believed her. Someone saw the girl hidden beneath the goat's skin. And that small spark of hope was about to grow into a fire that would change everything. The night pressed heavy on the fisherman's hut. The firewood crackled. The fisherman sat outside, sharpening his knife again and again, his eyes glinting in the firelight. Mary lay tied to the post, her body trembling, her heart sinking deeper with every scrape of the blade. Finally, he rose quietly, tiptoeing past his father, who had dozed off by the fire, knife still in hand. He slipped outside into the night, his small feet silent on the earth. He crouched beside Mary, who stared at his touch. Mary, he whispered urgently. I know who can help you. Baba Lodger, the old man at the edge of the forest. But we must be quick, the boy continued. If Papa wakes up and finds you gone, he will beat me and kill you. He untied the rope with trembling fingers, glancing over his shoulder every second. The knot finally gave way, and Mary stumbled free, her legs weak. Come, he urged, pulling gently at her rope. They slipped into the darkness, the crickets singing, the moonlight guiding their path. The forest loomed ahead, its tall trees whispering secrets to the night. Halfway down the path, a sound split the air. Hey! The fisherman's voice. The boy froze. His father stood at the edge of the hut, holding the knife, his eyes burning with fury. Where are you going with my goat? The man roared, storming toward them. Fear shot through the boy's veins, but he pulled Mary's rope tighter. Run, he shouted. Mary stumbled forward, hooves clattering against the dirt. The boy ran beside her, his breath ragged. Behind them, his father gave chase, his footsteps heavy, his knife gleaming in the moonlight. The trees drew nearer. The shadows thickened. And then, from deep within the forest, a voice rang out, low and commanding. Stop! The ground shook. The wind rose. The fisherman halted, his knife trembling in his hand. The boy and Mary froze, staring into the darkness. From between the trees stepped Baba Lodger, the elder. His white hair glowed under the moon, his staff struck the ground, and his eyes shone with knowing fire. I have been waiting for you, he said, his voice carrying like thunder. The cursed child, and the brave boy. Mary's heart leapt. At last, there was hope. The night wind howled as Baba Lodger lifted his staff, striking it against the earth. The sound echoed like thunder rolling through the forest. The fisherman, knife in hand, froze where he stood. His legs trembled, his eyes wide. He felt something greater than himself pressing down, something that turned his anger into fear. "Return to your hut," Baba Lodger commanded. His voice was calm but carried the weight of 100 drums. "This goat is not what it seems." The fisherman staggered back, confused, but dared not argue. He turned slowly, muttering under his breath, and disappeared into the night. The boy clung to Mary's rope, his small hands shaking. Baba Lodger's eyes settled on her, and for a long moment, he simply stared. The silence grew heavy. Then he nodded once. "Yes," he murmured, his voice low and certain. "A soul trapped in the skin of an animal. The work of dark hands. I have seen this before." Mary's chest heaved. She lowered her head and bleated softly, desperate for him to understand. "Do not fear, child," Baba Lodger said, kneeling so that his face was level with hers. Together, they led Mary deeper into the forest until they reached a small clearing. A circle of stones lay there, covered in chalk markings. Calabashes filled with herbs and feathers sat around a blackened fire pit. The air felt alive, humming with unseen power. "Place her in the circle," Baba Lodger instructed. The boy guided Mary to the center. She stood trembling, her hoofs clicking against the stones. Baba Lodger began to chant, his voice deep and rhythmic, each word pulling at the night itself. He threw herbs into the fire pit, and instantly, flames leapt up, green and blue. Smoke spiraled into the sky, carrying the scent of burning leaves. The forest stirred. The trees swayed though no wind blew. Owls cried out, wings slicing the night. Mary felt the rope around her neck loosen, as if unseen hands were untying it. Then, the air split open. A shadow burst into the clearing, dark smoke twisting into the form of Grace. "You dare to meddle in my work, Baba Lodger. You dare to steal what is mine." The boy gasped, stumbling back, but Baba Lodger did not move. He struck his staff on the ground, and sparks of white light shot up like lightning. "This child is not yours, Grace," Baba Lodger thundered. "You will not claim her spirit." Grace raised her hands, and black smoke surged forward, wrapping around Mary. She bleated in terror as the darkness tightened, pulling her down. "Papa Lodger," the boy cried. "Hold fast," the elder roared. He sprinkled white powder into the fire, and the smoke turned bright, glowing like stars. His chant grew louder, stronger, shaking the earth itself. Mary's body convulsed. Her horns shrank. Her hoofs cracked, splitting into fingers. Her fur burned away in the firelight. She screamed, this time not a bleat, but a human cry. Grace shrieked, the smoke around her twisting wildly. "No. She belongs to me." But Baba Lodger's voice drowned her out. "Light conquers darkness. Truth defeats lies. The pure heart cannot be buried." With a final strike of his staff, the fire exploded into a pillar of white flame. Grace screamed, her form shattering into smoke that scattered into the night. The fire dimmed. The smoke cleared. And in the center of the circle, trembling and weak, lay Mary, her human self once more. Her eyes were wide with shock, tears streaming down her cheeks. The boy dropped to his knees, smiling through his own tears. "You're back," he whispered. "Mary, you're back." Mary gasped for air, her hands clutching the earth as if to make sure it was real. She looked at Baba Lodger, who nodded gravely. "Child," he said, "your battle has only begun. Go now, tell your father the truth before it is too late. For Grace's hunger will not stop until she is destroyed." Mary's heart pounded. At dawn, a young boy ran from house to house shouting, "Mary is alive. Mary has come back." His voice carried across the dusty paths, reaching ears that could not believe such words. Doors opened, neighbors rushed out, and soon a crowd gathered at the edge of the square. Mary stood there, weak but unbroken, her bare feet covered in dirt, her hair tangled, her eyes burning with fire. She clutched the boy's hand tightly, as if drawing strength from his small presence. Beside her, Babaloja leaned on his staff, silent but powerful. Gasps filled the air. Women covered their mouths. Children clung to their mothers' wrappers. The men shook their heads in disbelief. "Is that not Mary?" someone whispered. But she was gone. They said she vanished into the night. "Spirit, spirit," another muttered, stepping back in fear. Mary lifted her voice, trembling but clear. "It is me. I am Mary, daughter of Thomas the farmer. I was not lost. I was cursed." At that, her father Thomas pushed through the crowd, his face pale, his hands shaking. He had grown thinner since her disappearance, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights. When he saw her, his knees buckled, and he fell to the ground. "Mary," he cried, crawling toward her. "My child, my only child." He reached for her, but stopped, doubt flickering in his eyes. "Is it truly you? Or is this a spirit sent to torment me?" Tears streamed down Mary's face. She knelt before him, taking his rough hands into hers. "Father, it is me. You're Mary. Feel my hands. Feel my heart." She pressed his hand against her chest, in her tightly. The crowd gasped again, some with joy, others with fear. But then, Grace appeared. Her wrapper was tied neatly, her face painted with calm innocence. She walked slowly into the square, her head held high. Not a single flicker of guilt showed on her face. Instead, she smiled sweetly, her voice dripping like honey. "My husband," she said, placing a hand on Thomas's shoulder. "You must not be deceived. This is not Mary. This is a trick. Spirits can take the faces of the dead. Do not let your grief blind you." The crowd murmured, eyes darting between Mary and Grace. Suspicion thickened the air. Some nodded at Grace's words. Others frowned, remembering her strange laughter in the days after Mary's disappearance. Mary rose to her feet, her body trembling but her voice fierce. "You lie, Grace. You are the one who cursed me. You turned me into a goat with your evil charms. I wandered the forest, trapped, until Babaloja broke your spell." A collective gasp tore through the crowd. All eyes turned to Grace. Her smile faltered for a heartbeat, but quickly returned. She pointed at Grace with a trembling hand. "This woman wanted me dead, so she could rule this house alone. Ask her where she goes at night. Ask her why the shadows obey her call." The villagers muttered louder. Eyes narrowed. Heads shook. Grace's calm mask began to crack. Thomas looked between them, his heart pounding. His face twisted with confusion, love, and fear. What am I to believe?" he whispered. Babaloja struck his staff against the ground, silencing the crowd. "There is only one way," he said firmly. "Let the truth be tested. Let Grace and Mary stand before the king. If the child speaks falsely, the gods will punish her. But if she speaks true," his eyes burned into Grace's, "then the darkness will finally be unmasked." The crowd erupted. Some cheered for justice. Others whispered of danger. The king's court was sacred ground, no lie could stand there. Grace's lips tightened, her eyes flashing red for only a second before she quickly looked away. Mary lifted her chin, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. "Yes. Let it be before the king. Let the truth be seen by all." And so, as the sun rose higher, the villagers began to march. Thomas walked in the middle, torn between two women, his trembling daughter on one side, and his smiling wife on the other. Behind them, Babaloja and the villagers followed, the sound of their footsteps heavy with expectation. The king awaited. The truth, or the final lie, was about to be revealed. The palace courtyard was packed. Mary stepped into the open, her legs trembling but her back straight. Grace followed, her steps slow and deliberate, her wrapper glittering in the light. She looked every bit the dutiful wife, her face calm as still water. The king's gaze swept over them. I hear whispers of curses and shadows, of goats that are not goats, and of blood bound by lies. Today, the truth will stand. Speak, child, he said, his eyes settling on Mary. What has brought you here? Mary bowed low, her voice steady though her heart raced. My king, I am Mary, daughter of Thomas. My stepmother Grace cast me. She turned me into a goat and left me to die in the forest. Were it not for Babaloja and this boy, I would never have returned. The crowd gasped, some clutching their heads, others whispering furiously. The king raised his hand, silencing them. His eyes shifted to Grace. Do you deny this? Grace smiled sweetly, bowing low. My king, I am but a humble wife. This child is not Mary, she is a spirit wearing my stepdaughter's face. I have cared for my husband faithfully. Would I destroy his only child? These are lies from jealous tongues. Her words dripped like honey, smooth and convincing. Some in the crowd nodded, but others frowned, remembering Mary's kindness and Grace's strange ways. The king leaned back. Words are wind. Here, truth is tested. Let the gods speak. At his signal, 2 guards stepped forward carrying a large calabash filled with sacred water. The water shimmered as though lit from within, glowing under the sun. The elders began to chant, their voices rising and falling like waves. This water knows no lies, the eldest intoned. Who drinks it with falsehood in their heart will be struck down by the wrath of the gods. A hush swept the crowd. Even the birds seemed to pause. The king's eyes narrowed. Mary, step forward. Mary's throat was dry, but she walked with courage. Kneeling, she lifted the calabash, her reflection trembling on the surface. She whispered a prayer, then drank deeply. The water slid down her throat, cool and sharp. She waited. Nothing happened. Her body was steady, her heart strong. A cry rose from the crowd, it is her. She speaks the truth. The king's gaze shifted to Grace. Now you. For the first time, Grace's smile faltered. Her fingers tightened on her wrapper. Slowly, she stepped forward. She lifted the calabash, her hands trembling slightly, though she tried to hide it. She brought it to her lips and drank. The moment the water touched her tongue, her body convulsed. She staggered back, choking, her eyes rolling wildly. A scream tore from her throat, not the scream of a woman, but a shrill, inhuman cry. Black smoke burst from her mouth, swirling into the sky. The crowd shrieked and stumbled back. Mothers grabbed their children. Men shouted in fear. Grace fell to the ground, her face twisted, her voice cracking like thunder. No. No. She was mine. She was mine. Her body writhed, her skin rippling as if shadows lived beneath it. The king rose to his feet, striking his staff against the ground. Witch, he thundered. You dare to poison this land with your evil? The elders chanted louder, raising their staffs. The black smoke shrieked and twisted, forming a monstrous shape above Grace. But the sacred water burned within her, and with one final, piercing scream, the shadow burst apart into ash, scattering into the wind. Grace's body collapsed, lifeless, upon the earth.